Well, real quick, man, I always like to give a quick intro of what do I mean when I say extraordinary. I feel like there are a lot of people who are like, behind the scenes that aren't like famous yet, and I feel like you got a lot of gatekeepers, which I feel this guy here, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into it after he introduces himself. So, introduce yourself. What's the deal? I want to welcome you to the Kurt Network, where we interview extraordinary people about regular, everyday topics. Well, real quick, man, I always like to give a quick intro of what do I mean when I say extraordinary. I feel like there are a lot of people who are like, behind the scenes that aren't like famous yet, and I feel like you got a lot of gatekeepers, which I feel this guy here, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into it after he introduces himself. So. Introduce yourself.
My name is Jeff Conway. I'm the athletic director here at Dearborn High School in Dearborn, Michigan.
How long have you been here, Jeff?
It's my 13th year as athletic director at Dearborn High.
Wow. So real quick, I just want to say what attracted me to Jeff was I was actually walking through the hallways and I just stopped him at a random moment. I just said, hey, I don't even think I asked you if you mind if I think I did. I think I may have said, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? And then you said, yeah. And I said, what is the number one challenge that you have here? I don't even think I knew your role, but honestly, it at the moment it didn't matter, just because I just wanted to know, like, in an environment like this, like, what is the biggest challenge that you faced dealing with like students? I knew we were in a high school, obviously, and I knew you were something as it relates to a teacher. I didn't know, but I just wanted to know. And real quick, if we can revisit it, we can revisit it. But so what is one of the biggest challenges that you face here? If you remember the conversation we had.
I do, yeah. So, being that we're a large high school with, we have 2,000 students in our building. When you factor in staff and other people that are working here, probably 2,300 people that are coming and going.
In this one building?
In one building. Just managing that whole operation in and of itself is a challenge. And then, you add into that 2,000, teenagers, high school aged kids trying to move about and get things done. There's just an inherent challenge to the whole setup of what a high school is, getting people from point A to point B, getting them to where they need to be at a certain time, that type of stuff. There's a built-in challenge, just the whole setup of a high school, with a lot of little nuances built in along the way. So.
Yeah, so I remember, and see, what's funny is I'm glad I re-asked the question, because that wasn't the original response that you gave me. So when I asked you, as a matter of fact, I may have not worded it right, but I asked you, what is the biggest challenge that you have with the students? Is that ringing a bell?
I do, yeah. So the biggest challenge I would say we have right now with students, and I don't know if this is unique to Dearborn High School or any high school or any middle school, but it's really become almost something over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years that I've noticed a lot more. Is there's a lot more of asking of like why,
yes.
Like why do I need to do that, or why, which is good in some ways, because we want kids to be able to ask those types of questions. But sometimes, when I'm asking, student A, hey, can you just move over to the side, please? Like, sometimes you just have to do what you're being
told. Yeah. Like, I like how you say asked.
Yeah. I'm not. It's nothing that's going to get you in trouble. It's not a big deal. But I'm just asking you to do this or this or this or this. And I really think a lot of that started to come up, when we had, the COVID, when we were out of school. We kind of lost for a while there, like social, interaction with other people and how we treat each other, not just as students to adults, but even other adults, or students talking to other students. I think somewhere along the way in that whole COVID, because we were out of school, from face-to-face learning for almost a year. Kids were learning online, and when we did come back, we didn't really come back with everybody being in school all at the same time. We were like every other day and little hour, so we really, last year, finally, we kind of got back to having everybody in school at the same time, normal schedule, 6 hours a day with lunch in the middle. It started to look like school again. But I think it's going to take us a little bit of time to kind of get back to, okay, now that we're back in school, how does school need to run? What are some things we all need to do to help each other out to make the building run the way it needs to run?
Yeah. So if I can ask, what is it that keeps you in an environment like this? Like you said, you've been in this environment for 13 years. So what is it that keeps you in an environment like this?
So I love my job. I mean, that's first and foremost. I get up every morning and I jump out of bed and I'm ready to go to work. I'm excited to come to work. I love the people that I work with. The staff here is fantastic. I have an unbelievably good coaching staff that I work with, people who love kids and want to do good things for kids. But anybody who works in education, um, should probably say at the top of their checklist is, I love working with kids. I love working with young adults. I love, being around them. I love the energy that they bring. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but that energy is always there. And I really enjoy, the environment in a high school and being in a high school. It's really something that I like a lot. I can't imagine working anywhere else. I can't imagine doing a different job than this job. I really just love what I do every day, and that's what kind of keeps me, excited and enthusiastic about being here. So
Yeah, you know what's crazy is when I got here, I got here a little early, and I kind of wanted to just peep the scene, and I noticed that while we were in here just talking, I just noticed everyone who interacted with you, and I just noticed that you kind of kept the same energy with everyone, and I was impressed by that because, it wasn't like you're putting on the show. I caught you at a raw moment where, seriously, I caught you at a moment where you could have been having a bad day today. Like when I caught you the first day. And I want to jump, but I'm gonna stick with the topic. But when I caught you the first day, you were cool, and that was another thing too. When I first asked you, I said, "Hey, like you just said you deal with a lot of things on a day to day basis, and even as the athletic director at a school that holds a capacity of, I think you said the staff and just including the students is upwards of 2,000.
yeah, definitely over 2,000 when you count everybody that's here at any given moment. So
And so when I caught you in that moment, most people are when they're caught off guard, they're in a natural state. And I asked you a question, and you were able to clearly say, the biggest challenge that I have here is, and it wasn't even like, man, it just gets on my nerves. It was well, I noticed that you were smiling too, kind of like I get a lot of kids ask me why, and I kind of understand just from me being told some things, and just even as a kid, like told false things. Well, this guy just asked me to do this, and it didn't work out. Why now? I want to know why now. If someone asks me to do something, so the reason why, to go back, I said that I interview extraordinary people. I feel like you're an extraordinary guy. One, because just all the people that are interacting with you, and then the way I look at you, like I said, all the interactions that we've had. I just remember being young and different coaches or people being in like an authority figure, having an impact on my life, and I feel they've had impact on where I am today, and I
mhm.
just feel like that's a like that the road that you're in, man. I don't think that, and that's kind of like why I wanted to ask you these questions, because I don't think that a lot of people see the necessary of your role, or just even being in a school like outside of the athleticness. You are a mentor because obviously you're in a role of leadership. You have to lead people.
Sure.
So let me ask you this: do you have some people that call you coach ever?
Yeah, so before I was the athletic director here, I coached for 12 years. This is my 25th year in education. So, but that's a common, and I mean, I take it as a compliment when somebody says, "Hey, coach, how you doing, coach?" or whatever. Even though there's kids here now. I mean, I've never could have coached these kids when I was coaching. They were some of them probably weren't even born yet.
Right.
But now, when they say, "Hey, coach, how you doing, coach?" I take that as a compliment. It's a sign of respect,
Respect.
from kids for sure, which is just that's how they interact with adults. So
Yeah. And I almost called you coach, just in the short time that we've had, man. But I'm just, like I said, man, I'm impressed with the energy that you have. Like I said, I think it's huge when you got like I've seen some students coming here, and I've seen even the one guy, you were like, yeah, man, you're good to go. And he just was, I can see, because I read body language a lot, just because I just want to know who I'm around, who I'm interacting with. And I just can tell he was comfortable with you.
mhm.
Even the little conversation we had right before this, you said that the kid left his shoes. He left his the bowling shoes on,
He did,
and
yeah.
he called you for comfort, if you will, because he went, hey, coach, what do I do? Am
I,
I going to get in trouble?
I think there was a little panic setting
Yes.
in there for sure. So
And I'm pretty sure you was able to calm him down. But like I said, man, I think it's huge. And honestly, where I'm getting at with this is, I want someone who is in the athletic space, or not even the athletic space, but someone who's in the educational field to go, hey, um, outside of maybe the pay, and I want to ask you some questions about that, but outside of the pay, like I want a person to know, like, hey man, being in this environment, I'm kind of like setting the precedence of a student for the rest of his life. Like you said,
Sure.
there's some kids here that you could have never coached because when you were coaching, they were underage or not born
Yeah.
yet.
Oh yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
And I just feel that for me to see you, man, the way you act, like I only met you a handful of times, man, but every time I see you, like on the up and up,
Right.
and I'm just like, why, man? And there's so many people who are attitudinal, man, and it's just, oh, man, I don't like my job, and I'm just impressed with you, and I just want someone who's in the educational space or someone who's dealing with youth to kind of like separate the personal, separate the self, and go, hey, outside of myself, man, I'm helping someone be something. I'm helping someone have hope. I'm helping someone panic. Like outside of like this the kid that was in here a couple minutes ago. That short interaction could have been a one less interaction that he had today of his dad telling him just something like
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
disrespectful. Just the that small, like you weren't dismissive. You know, people body language can be dismissive,
Oh, very much. Yeah. Very much so.
and you kind of gave him that calmness, like that one added on to the one that he may get when he gets home, and it kind of balances it out to where when he goes home, he can go, man, you know what, my life sucks, but you know I got Coach Jeff at the at school tomorrow. He's going to make me feel good. You know what, if I'm not here tomorrow, Coach Jeff may, you know, it may hurt him,
Sure. Yeah.
you know, because I've dealt with, you know, in high school suicidal thoughts, so um, I know what it feels like to have those thoughts day to day, like just the thoughts just hammering you every day, and it's just kind of like you don't know what you do. The way I used to cope was just going to sleep. You know, that was
Mhm.
when I'm asleep. And it was what's crazy is I think that God gave me a gift at sleeping. Anytime I go to sleep, I'm within 5 minutes I'm asleep. So that was the way I was able to cope. And so I know what it feels like to deal with that. And you know what, real quick, have you had any personal interactions with any of the students, or have you been able to tell, like, man, this kid may be dealing with some stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, everybody who's in education is trained for that, but there's also a certain value to the experience of having been in education for 25 years. You can definitely, I feel like I can tell, and anybody who's an experienced educator can tell, especially once you get to know kids a little bit, whether it's through coaching or teaching or seeing them in the lunchroom every day. You can tell, your radar can tell when somebody is not themselves. And I mean, high school, can be rough. A lot of times kids come here and they're with us for 6 or 7 hours a day. We don't always know what goes on in their life outside of those 7 or 8 hours. As much as we try to find out, we try to get to know our students. Sometimes there's stuff going on that we don't really know about, and I think we have to make sure we take that into every interaction we have, because I may not know that student A or student B has an issue at home that's really dragging them down. So you hate to say, assume that's the case, but it has to always be in the back of your mind that, this person may have a lot going on right now that's way above and beyond what they're worrying about in basketball practice or geometry class or whatever they're doing in the building. And, try to have that empathy is really important, if you're somebody who's going to be in education, to understand that. So,
Wow, man. What's crazy is you said a minute ago, like, hey, man, I love my job. And I think I do. I love my job as well because there's no way, like I said, man, sometimes I get insecure about my slogan because it kind of sounds cliche. Oh, man, we interview extraordinary people. And, you got some people that go, well, what makes him so extraordinary? And there's no way I shouldn't have, like you said, man, you've been in this field for 13 years and, you know, just me meeting you and hearing this is like, wow, man, I love what I do because there's no way I shouldn't have. I'm not gonna say shouldn't have, but how is it that I had the opportunity to meet a guy like you? Like even like I said, man, I got to keep going back to the interaction that you had with the young man. I feel like just your approach with him was empathetic, and even though he may have not been going through anything, he may have just wanted to come here and drop off a document.
oh yeah, for sure.
And that was it. But just to hear you say the approach, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, yeah, man, this is a guy I need to be speaking with because. So I'm talking to the person who is in the educational space, someone who may only be in the educational space for a year that may need to hear for that year, this may not be your whole life career ending field,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
but
no doubt, no doubt.
for that year that you're in that field, hey Jeff, what would you say? Oh, he needs to have an empathetic spirit. You know, he
Mhm.
needs to have this. He needs to be careful at um how he handles the students or whoever it is that he's dealing with. Even a coworker, you may have a coworker, man, that's struggling with some
Oh, yeah,
things.
but adults have things going on in their life just like kids do. So for sure, yeah. And that I think is, I think that's if you're talking to somebody who was in their first or second year of education. I mean, that's the biggest thing that you can probably tell them is, you never know what interaction you have with somebody during a day, especially a student, how that might somehow change that course of that person's day, week, month, life. Who knows, Because I think everybody can look back at high school or middle school or elementary school and they remember a teacher or someone in education that did something, those are things that people remember. So yeah, to spend an extra 30 seconds chatting with somebody when they're coming and dropping something off, that's an investment I'm willing to make, every time. So, because, like you mentioned, now if that young man ever needs something, I think
He know who he
he
can count
probably
on.
knows, hey, if you can knock on the door and come in here, I'm always going to be on the student side. I'm here to help. I'm always going to be on the student side. So that's part of my job, part of all of our jobs in education.
Let me ask you, how do you feel about like the pay? Do you feel like honestly you're being compensated appropriately for your role, or let's just say the value that you personally feel that you add? Do you feel like not throwing shade, but just like, hey, I'm being compensated fairly?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think when people talk about education, one of the things that 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 they bring up is salaries of teachers. A lot of times that discussion gets moved into a way where it seems like you're talking about all people in education, but a lot of the lower salaries are really for the people that are starting out. Most school districts, I think ours included, you know the pay scale is sort of based upon experience. As you accumulate more years, your pay just kind of naturally goes up. So and that's one of the catch 22s of education, if you want to call it that, is the people that are making the least, the first and second year teachers, are probably also the ones that are most likely to have frustration, because they're starting out, they're brand new. How do I handle this situation? I'm trying to do lesson plans and all, and then you add into that, a salary that is for first and second year teachers, probably a lot lower than it should be, considering what we're trusting them to do with our young men and women. Um, that's where it can be a problem. But no, I mean, I don't ever sit here and think, man, I should be making more money than I'm making, for all that I do. That thought never enters my mind. And I think part of it is because I love what I do. So, I never want to say on camera, I would do this for free. But, that's kind of the attitude I have for my job. Like, yeah, I love doing this job. Um, my salary is fine. I can provide for my family. I don't have to worry about it. And we just kind of roll on from there. So,
You know what's funny about that is two things. The salary that you just expressed could be good for you. It may not be good for the next person. The next person may go, well, I don't. I feel it could be more. Things can always be
oh,
more.
no question. Yeah,
You
no
know,
question. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't feel it's unfair. I guess maybe a better way of saying it. I mean, if somebody knocked on the door and said, "We're going to pay you more," I wouldn't say no.
I was just,
But I'm also not getting. I wouldn't say I feel like I'm being treated or not compensated fairly for the work that I do. I mean, there's a value to building relationships with kids and helping them, move through life that is almost, in some sense, you couldn't really even put a price tag on it. Like, what is that really worth, to somebody as a dollar amount? But like I say, I love what I do, and my salary has never been something that I've ever sat up at night worrying about. So,
go back a little bit. You said putting a value. You said putting a value on something. Go back to that piece.
so I think, in our, I mean, we have some extraordinary teachers and educators in our building. I think some of the stuff that they're doing for kids right now, even I'll use our coaches as an example. Some of the stuff that they're doing for kids right now, going out of their way above and beyond anything that anybody would ever expect, from a high school coach, to do for their kids. That kind of stuff doesn't have it doesn't have a dollar value attached to it. It's more important than you could ever attach a certain amount of money to it, because it's really setting people up to be successful later in life, which ultimately is what our job is in a school, is to do everything in our power to set every student up to be successful later in life. What that success looks like is going to be different for every student, because not everybody's going to take the same path. But we're trying to help people be successful when they leave. Not only while they're here, but when they leave here, we should have them set up to be successful out in the real world, as sometimes we like to call it. So
Yeah, man. You know what I love about that is, there are a lot of people like, you know what? I'll say this. You could have said, you know what, the pay that, or you know what, not even the pay, but you could have said, you could have said anything. You said like, hey man, the pay is fairly well, and I'm grateful. But like I said, that could have been just for you. But another catch to that could be like money isn't always a value. So you have some people that work and they get paid really well, but they're miserable still.
right.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like why I kind of steer away from money. Like I rarely talk about money, because the money is easy. That's like the easiest thing that you can get. Like you can get money from doing anything. I've been able to. I've had the blessing of being able to be financially well. And if I'm honest with you, like I haven't had to like rob or steal or do any type of fraudulent activity. And I realize that it's easy. I'm not gonna say easy, but money is like the easiest thing that you can get.
Right.
And that's kind of like the whole point that I was making is, hey, how do you feel about the pay? Okay, great. So you are being paid well. So, but you're being paid well, but is that it? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, you get more value just from being in this position outside of the money.
I value relationships. I mean, that's a big part of being in education, particularly in sports, because in sports, it's one thing to be a teacher in the classroom. There's a relationship there, but in sports, you're adding in to the mix competition, where you're competing with your team against, and when you add competition into the mix, it certainly changes the dynamic of the situation, because you have to become a team, and in order to be a good team, we talk about it all the time: chemistry, relationships. Those are all at the top of the list of things you need to be able to do well. Anybody who's coaching will tell you that. We don't have good chemistry coming out of the gate. The season's there's going to be some struggles. But if we have good chemistry, hey, sky's the limit. We can do everything, and that's just where that relationship piece becomes so important.
So what makes you prong to like wanting to build the relationship, or just like you said, so obviously there could be a point where you have some teammates, and I'm pretty sure, like, have you had some teammates that you weren't too happy about, like, just, well, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be sad if this guy was to transfer to a different.
I think I think you look back over, many years, many teams, I think you're always going to look back and say, on this team, if we didn't have that person, things might have been different. But you can also spin that around the other way too and say, on this team, if we just would have had this one extra person that could bring this to the table, we'd have been a lot more successful. So it kind of works both ways. But I'm a big believer in chemistry, and we talk about that with our coaches a lot, about when you're putting your roster together, or when you're picking your team, or when you're deciding who's going to play where. That's a big component of things. Is do those kids have the right relationship to be able to work together in a positive way? We know they're all talented; they can all play the sport that they're playing, but can they come together as a team in the right way? And that's not always easy to do as a coach. If you're just picking, I'm just going to pick the best 20 soccer players, and we're just going to roll the ball out there and see how we are. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more little details and things that you have to think about when you're doing that. Sometimes the 20 best players are not going to be the best team.
Right. So, even though they are the best.
Even though they're the most talented. There's other pieces of the puzzle that are very important. So.
And that's the whole point that I was trying to make, is that, you said that, well, like I said, the pay, like, to go back to the pay, the money is not the only piece. There are other factors. You talk about the players. Players being good is not the only factor. And that's the whole point that I'm trying to make, is that, hey, just on this journey that we're on, it's more more things. And I think that's this whole time I've been trying to pull out of you, and what you've given to me since day one is that you're bigger than. Well, I don't want to say you're bigger than the road, but your viewpoint isn't the money or the best, like the best team. Like you guys, how many teams do you have here?
We have 53 teams.
No, I'm pretty sure if 30 to 40 of the teams, I'm pretty sure that would bring a lot of more value to the school if all those teams won.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a vibe in the building when a team is successful and it's doing cool things and good things. Whatever sport it may be, because everybody can kind of jump on board, and it brings people together, it brings communities together when you have a team that is successful. We see that at all levels of sport, whether it's professional or college or whatever. When you have a group that's successful, people want to be around success. Inherently. So when a team is doing well, people want to be part of that, and they want to join it, and it definitely changes our school culture when we have a team that's really being successful, and we're talking about them and announcements, and we're seeing them in the hallway wearing their shirts, and I mean that's just there's an excitement there that happens with that. So
Yeah, so I love that because you wouldn't have mentioned that if I wouldn't have asked, but that's the whole point. Like you never even brought that up about how well or how good, and the whole thing, that the whole time I've been hearing you talk about the relationship building. How can I get this kid to be more successful in life? We're like, you're the gatekeeper, if you will. Like when I look back and see all of the different things, or all of the different people who've been involved in my life, like my old high school counselor suggested that I seek outside help. It wasn't a we've done all. It wasn't a we done all that we could here. We can't do anything else. But it was more so, we're going to continue to work on you, but we're going to point you into the direction where you can get the intimate help that you need. And I feel that just you being in your position, or anybody in the space of education, or anyone in the position of like mentorship, whatever the case may be, to take the focus off of, well, is my team the best, or is this school, or is this system, or is the pay the best? But it has nothing to do with the pay or any of those factors, but just how can where can I add value? Because ultimately, I feel that where you add value, or when you take all of those external factors out of the equation, you're going to eventually get those things, unless you're just an unfortunate person. But I don't, right. I've never experienced that. I've always, even when when I go back to a job that I had where I wasn't paid the like the most money, man, I gained work ethic, like just stability, being able to endure hardship. When I look back at every opportunity that I've had, or like I said, when I look back at that one job that I had, man, it like rocket launched me into every other field that I've been able to get into. So I kind of just want to like take the attention off of, well, what's in it for me, and I don't get that from you.
no, I don't think that's my attitude. I mean, one of the really cool things about this job is, and there's a lot of cool things, but one of the really cool things is, we get a lot of athletes, graduates, athletes, that come back. They come back to games. They come back to check in and see how we're doing. And I think to me at least, I think that's an indication that we're doing things the right way, and we have the proper perspective on what we're trying to provide with high school athletics. Because that says to me that those kids had a good experience when they were here, and they just want to come back. Sometimes just to say hi, to see a game, see their old coach, whatever. But I think that's really what we're here for. Is like I said, we're trying to prepare people to be successful when they leave here, for sure, and while they're here. But we also want them to have a good experience while they're here. It have to be a positive experience. We often joke around, somewhat tongue in cheek, but we joke around like when a team comes here for a game or a scrimmage, from another school. When they leave here, I want them to think, the kids, the parents, the bus driver, whoever, I want them to leave here thinking, I wish my kid went to Dearborn High. That place is fantastic. They do it the right way. Everybody was positive and fun and exciting, and it was a great environment. And man, I wish my kid went to Dearborn High. That's the ultimate compliment. That if anybody ever, I don't think anyone's actually ever said that to me, but maybe someone out there thought at some point. But yeah, that's really what we're trying to do. Make it such a great place that people want to people want to be part of it, you know.
Yeah, man. What would you? I want to ask what, like, to any educator or to anyone, to someone who's in like a role
Such as yours, just anyone, even outside of school, they can be at an after-school program.
what advice would you give them? Like, let's just say if they say, "Hey, man, Jeff, I don't like to pay, man. What I need some advice, man. I'm trying to hang on, man, but I don't know."
So I would probably tell anybody that, you know, if somebody is saying, look, you know, the pay isn't what it is, it's probably not the pay. It's probably the situation is not good, and the pay is just an added factor into your, you know, not being happy where you are. Because I think we know, you know, people that love what they do, you know, will do it no matter what the pay is. And people who are unhappy in what they're doing will inevitably be unhappy no matter what the pay is.
Right.
So, you know, when you mix those two things together, you know, anybody who's saying, you know, well, no one ever says, you know, I just love my job to death, it's the greatest job in the world, and I would do it forever, you know, but the pay is not very good. Like, that never comes out of anyone's mouth. They're just like, yeah, I love my job, I love what I'm doing, we're moving forward, this is great, you know. So I think that's kind of where the happy medium is in that situation.
Yeah, man. That's really the main point that I just want people to understand. Like, hey, man, you know, I've experienced a lot of people that don't like what they do, and I like how you said it's not always the job. Like, could be some things that you have going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, we all, you know, we tell kids all the time here, you know, as they're leaving and even as they're coming in, you know, in life, you know, life is short. Do what you love. You know, find something that you love to do, and make that that's what you're all about. You know, the money will come. The money will, like you said earlier, there's always ways to make money. So, but do what you love. You know, if your passion and your love is art, go be an artist. If your passion, your love is architecture, go be an art. You know, do what you love, because you'll never have a tough day at work if you're doing what you love. So,
you never have a tough day doing what you love. Last question, man. You have any comments that you want to add, you know, to that student who maybe, you know, straddling the fence on, hey, man, should I get into the educational space or no, or, you know, do you have any closing thoughts for him?
So,
or her?
You know, education sometimes gets beat up, you know, in the media. It oftentimes can become political. You know, education is always a hot button issue for, you know, regardless of what political affiliation you may have, education somehow is in there. But, you know, I think as somebody who's been in education for 25 years, it's if not the most rewarding field you can go into, it's got to be in the top, you know, 2% of, you know, of just a rewarding job. You know, you have to have a certain energy. You have to obviously love being around kids and love kids and be able to appreciate the sometimes helter-skelter nature of being in a school building. But, you know, again, if that's something people want to do, you know, I would never dissuade them from going into education. And if it's not right for you, then I would say find something that is too. You know, because not everybody that goes into teaching or goes into education, like any other field, not everybody finds after some time that it's right for them. And I would tell anybody, you know, the worst thing you can do is stay in it just because you're in it. You know, if you don't love what you're doing, and kids are very perceptive about stuff like that. Like, they can tell people that are in it because they love it versus people that are in it because they're in it. And the kids can pick up on that in a second. They can tell people that genuinely care about them and want them to be successful versus somebody who's just here because it's a job. You know, yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, at least speaking for our building, I don't think we have many people that are in that second. I mean, I think our staff and our coaching staff and all the people that work here, whether you're talking about custodians or, you know, people that work in the cafeteria, like, we have a great group here. We have an outstanding principal, great leadership team. Like, we have a great group here. People are really in it for the right reasons. But yeah, I mean, I would not dissuade anybody from education. You know, it's got a lot of, you know, it's got a lot of funny, you know, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not a 12-month-a-year job. It's got some weird, you know, structure, schedule things with it where, you know, we're go, and then we have kind of like 2 months where we're, off for summer, although, I don't know really that if there's anybody in our building that really is off for the summer, whether it's teachers doing professional development or coaches are running summer, like no one is really, sitting on a beach for 2 months doing nothing, and then they just come back on Labor Day and start school. It doesn't really work that way. But there are some and there are some long, long days, and there's some long stretches and stuff like that. So it's not like a typical 9 to 5 job. Even if you're as a classroom teacher, you're staying late grading stuff, and some days there's more to do, and some days it just bounces around. But some people thrive on that too. They don't need to have that structure. They're good with the way it works. So yeah, but education to me has been my whole life. So I have nothing but bad things to say about it.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
Nothing but good things to say about it, I should say.
So earlier on, you had said you've been, in this department for 13 years. I didn't even know that you were in the educational space for 25 years.
Yeah, I was a teacher before I was the athletic director. So I spent 12 years as a classroom teacher, taught math, coached, and that's kind of how I got my start into athletics, as I was coaching in high school. And, almost just, funny how things just work out by chance, that the athletic director job at Dearborn I opened up, and said, hey, that might be something that I would really want to do. I love sports. I love being around competition. Even outside of the school setting, I love to watch sports and play sports and stuff like that. So it just seemed like a good fit for me. And here we are 13 years later. I'm still sitting in this chair. So.
And you said it just kind of opened up.
Yeah. The previous athletic director left, and it was just, there was no, there was no real heir apparent. There wasn't a person like an assistant person. It was kind of an open position. Just threw my hat in the ring, and here we are. So.
That's kind of funny because back a minute ago I just asked you, and you said that the money will come. Don't seek the money will come. And here you are now saying, it just kind of opened up, and you're kind of in the role that essentially tailors you. And what I love about that is, you said you started in math, and then you became a coach, and now you're the athletic director. So what it sounds like to me is you were never on a pursuit for money. It was more so what fits you, or hey, this job I don't hate it, so I'm just going to keep on adding and building. And then, like you said, you add the element of, I'm helping out a student, or, all of those things where you say you're adding empathy into someone's life who may not have that.
Yeah.
And so to now, 13 years later, like you said, you're in a different position that you probably never even sought out, like you weren't looking for. You just said, oh, that seems like that'll be a good fit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I just feel like that's my whole point, man. That's like my mission, to just get people to understand, like, hey, man, do whatever it is that you want to do. Don't be swayed by the media. Don't be swayed by social media on trying to hurry up and get the quick dollar. Like when I met you, man, it was pure. Let me ask this guy a question, man, because I've taken courses on how do you do this or how do you do that, but I realized, like, when you put action behind anything, and the action was, hey man, can I ask you a quick question? And it turned into, hey man, would you mind sitting down and let's having a few words on what it is that you do or what it is that I do, and all just on me just asking a question, and I'm real glad, man, that I asked you. I'm real glad that you accepted the opportunity, man.
Appreciate the opportunity, man. It's great talking. So.
Yeah, man. I hope you continue to do good, and I really learned a lot, man, because now you kind of got me going, where else can I add value? What else is there that I can do to make someone feel comfortable? And not saying that I don't already do that, man, but just sitting here learning from you. And that's another thing that I love about this is I can't do anything but take notes, because it's like firsthand.
Right.
And I just appreciate you, man. I feel like you're a real solid dude, man, and I wish you was my coach, So.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. That's a wonderful compliment when anybody ever says, "Coach." That's always a term of endearment, if you will. So, because people remember great coaches, people remember great teachers they had, in their life. I can think back now. I was playing, baseball when I was 10 years old. Man, I had a great coach, and I still remember to this day. So, and that's 37 years ago. So, that's a long time.
Yeah, man. So, y'all heard it here first. My man Jeff. I want to thank you again, Jeff, for coming on to the Kirk Network.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in. It was great. So.
Yes, sir. So with that being said, y'all already know what y'all can do. pass go and collect your 200. Peace.